you have things. Maybe not everything you want, but enough. Enough that when you look at your life from the outside, from the angle other people see it, it looks like a life that should feel okay. There are people who care about you, work that is at least partially meaningful, moments that are genuinely good. And yet, underneath all of it, there is this, a persistent, low-frequency sense that something is not quite right. Not a grief you can name, not a sadness you can point to, just a gap, a quiet hollow, a feeling that the life you are living is adjacent to the life you are supposed to be living, and that no matter how much you accomplish or arrange, the gap does not close. You have tried to fill it with work, relationships, experiences, the next goal, the next version of the plan. Each thing produced something of a temporary easing, a few weeks where the hollow felt smaller, and then it returned, patient and familiar, as though it had simply waited while you tried the thing and was not surprised when the thing didn't work. And sometimes you wonder, is something fundamentally wrong with me? Do other people feel this? Is this depression, or anxiety, or a personality that simply will not allow satisfaction? What I want to offer today isn't a diagnosis, and it isn't reassurance, something more specific than either a real look at what this feeling actually is, where psychology says it comes from, and why it is not evidence of something broken in you, but of something real that has not yet been found. Start with what the hollow is not. It is not simply unmet ambition. People who achieve significant external success and still feel it know this viscerally. It is not clinical depression, though it can accompany it. It is not ingratitude, though you have probably been made to feel that it might be. What it is, according to existential and depth psychology, is the experience of a self that has been partially unlived. Psychologist James Hollis, drawing on Jung's developmental framework, describes this as the signal of an authentic self that has not been adequately expressed in the life being lived. The hollow is not emptiness, it is the felt absence of something specific, a self that exists, that has gen you in shape and gen you in desires, that has been consistently subordinated to the adapted self. The adapted self is competent, capable, and genuinely yours. But it is not the whole of you. The part that isn't the adapted self hasn't disappeared simply because it was never given expression. It persists, and its persistence is what you feel as the hollow. Maslow describes something related in his later work, the Jonah Complex, less well known than his hierarchy of needs, but perhaps more important for this experience. Human beings are not only afraid of failure, they are also afraid, at a deep and rarely examined level, of the full expression of what they actually are. The Jonah Complex refers to the unconscious flinching away from one's own potential. Not laziness, not low ambition, but a gen you in retreat from full self-expression because it carries visibility, responsibility, and the requirement of becoming someone whose real needs can no longer be safely pushed aside. The hollow is the cost of that flinching. You moved away from something calling you not because you were weak, but because the calling was frightening, or inconvenient, or would have required disrupting the life you had arranged. What you moved away from didn't disappear. It stayed where you left it. And the distance between where you are and where that something waits is what you feel when the days get quiet enough. Now a different angle on the same experience, because the hollow has more than one possible source. Clinical psychologist Jonah Webb, whose research on childhood emotional neglect has produced some of the most precise descriptions of this internal experience, describes the hollow as a core consequence of growing up in an environment where your emotional interior, your Gen U, in feelings, real preferences, actual needs was consistently not reflected or considered important enough to attend to, not through malice, often through parents who were simply emotionally unavailable, or overwhelmed, or never given attunement themselves. Webb's research shows that when a child's Gen U in emotional experience is consistently unseen, the child learns to not see it either. The internal attunement system, the capacity to notice what you feel and take it seriously, atrophies through disuse. The adult that child becomes can tell you what they think, what they have done, but ask them what they actually want, what would genuinely satisfy them, and there is often a long, uncertain pause, not because they are shallow, because the connection between the self and the awareness of the self was severed early enough to become unfamiliar. The hollow. Here is the ache of that severed connection. Not the absence of a self, the presence of a self that has never been adequately met, even by the person it belongs to. The missing thing is not outside you. It has been inside you the entire time, waiting to be noticed, waiting for the moment the adapted self quiets long enough for the Gen U in self to be heard. A third angle comes from self-determination theory, developed by Edward Deci and Richard Ryan at the University of Rochester. Their research identified three core psychological needs whose chronic absence produces a pervasive sense of inauthenticity across an entire life. Autonomy acting from Gen U, in choice rather than external pressure. Competence effectiveness in areas that actually matter to you, and relatedness, Gen U in, not performed, connection to others. When these go chronically unmet, the result is a feeling of going through motions that belong to someone else's life. A career chosen for safety rather than meaning. Relationships maintained from obligation. A daily existence structured around what is required of you rather than what is actually yours. The self with Gen U in autonomy and Gen U in connection is not being lived. It is waiting. And the wait is what the hollow is. Here is something worth saying plainly. The hollow is not the enemy. In the tradition of existential psychology, particularly in the work of Viktor Frankl and Irvin Yalom, experiences like this are not symptoms to be eliminated, but calls to be answered. The hollow is not telling you that nothing will ever be enough. It is telling you that what you have been building toward is not the thing, and that the thing is somewhere more interior, more particular, more genuinely yours. So what do you actually do with this? The first is to stop trying to fill the hollow from the outside. Not forever, but long enough to notice the filling strategy has been running for some time and hasn't worked. The hollow is not a storage problem. It won't be resolved by the right achievement or acquisition. It is a signal from a self that is not being heard. And the response to a signal is not more noise. It is listening. The second is to begin the slow work of learning what you actually want. Not what you're supposed to want. Not what makes sense given your circumstances. What you, the one who looks out through your eyes in the quiet moments, actually wants. This work is often slow because the connection to your Gen U in self has been underused for a long time. Start small. What do you genuinely enjoy? Not what you perform? What draws you when no one is watching? When has the hollow eased even briefly, and what were you doing? Because it has eased, there have been moments. Those moments are data pointing somewhere real. The third is to take one step, however small, in the direction of the unlived thing. Not to transform your life overnight, just to make contact with the self that has been waiting, one conversation you have been avoiding, one creative impulse you have been dismissing, one authentic preference overridden by what is practical, one moment of genuine choice rather than managed compliance. The hollow does not close all at once. It closes incrementally through the accumulation of moments in which the genuine self was allowed to exist in the actual life, rather than waiting at its edges. The feeling that something is always missing is not proof that you are deficient, ungrateful, or constitutionally incapable of satisfaction. It is proof that you are carrying a genuine self that has not been fully lived, that the life you are in is real and has value and is also not yet the full version of what is available to you. You are not broken. You are not beyond this. You are someone whose genuine self has been patient for a very long time. The hollow is not punishment. It is the invitation. Tell me in the comments, when was the last time the hollow felt smaller? What were you doing? Who were you with? Or where were you? That moment is not an accident. It is a direction, and I want to know where yours is pointing. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time.